So, Chris, you've emerged as the biggest single donor of the crypto industry this year. What compelled you to donate at this scale this election cycle?
Yeah, again, first, thanks for having us today. Well, look, there's been this really misguided war on crypto that's been led by Senator Warren. And I think everybody has realized that that was a huge mistake, that just resulted in sort of giving leadership to Singapore and London when it should have been in the US. It didn't protect consumers. It allowed sketchy foreign operators like FTX to rip off American consumers. So that's been a failure. But I think the good news now is that we see this sort of bipartisan support from whomever wins the White House, whether it is the Republicans or the Democrats. I think the war in crypto is over. And look, we want to encourage pro-digital asset political leaders. What we've done that on the congressional side through Fair Shake. That's a bipartisan super PAC. And I think it's really important that we do that in the presidential as well, particularly when both sides now we're going to see a sea change here. The war on crypto is going to be over one way or another, and we want to be supportive of that in a bipartisan way.
Now, new federal election filings this week show that you've given nearly $12 million, mostly in XRP, to the Harris campaign. Why are you throwing your weight behind the vice president?
Well, we're really excited by her economic message. It is a message now of pro-innovation and making sure that our American champions dominate their industries around the world. So I'm excited about that. I think the Harris administration, look, their DNA is from the world capital of innovation right here in the Bay Area. That the place that's created more trillion-dollar companies than any place on the planet. She gets that. She grew up here. She knows people that founded these companies. So I'm just really, really confident that this is going to be a completely different approach than I think I'll just say it, the failed policy that the Biden administration brought when it came to crypto and digital assets. Because frankly, I think they just weren't paying attention and they sort of outsourced it to Senator Warren, and it was a disaster. But that is not going to be how the Harris campaign approaches this. I'm extremely confident in that. Fair Shake made a decision they were not going to get involved in the presidential election. So I think that kind of left that wide open in a more ad hoc fashion, if you will. And, again, what I saw was kind of all the donations going on the Republican side, which is fine. I get it. They've been very pro crypto. But again, Harris administration has also made it very clear this is going to be a very different approach. It's going to be a reset. And I think it's actually good for the industry to have that bipartisan support and weight. And kind of what I did there now kind of equals that out in the same way that Fair Shake has spent equally on Dems and Republicans who are pro-crypto.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Chris Larsen clearly saying he's playing the Hegelian dialectic. Clearly says out of his own mouth, since all the money was going over there to Trump and Republicans, I decided to take my money and give to Harris and the Democrats. That's textbook Hegelian dialectic. And he states that the Harris administration will push the Great Reset. And we know that is a fact. It doesn't matter whether Trump or Harris gets into office, they're going to be pushing this fourth industrial revolution. Whether robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And the movies continue. We have the news that Elon was speaking to Putin. Why is this coming up, guys? Yes, the sheep are going to look at it, but we know the BRICS summit went on, and there was a total blackout. Not one piece of information on these money channels. But we also know China has funded Tesla, and we don't hear nothing about that. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now we have Jim Karen on the bond market and says the bond market is following the Fed. And that is definitely a fact. But these yield rates are rising because we're going to be entering into reality. Once we get this new administration in the next few months, reality is about to hit the sheep. Yes, it's going to take about 3 years for them to fully see what's about to happen. But they're about to get a big dose of reality in the next few months. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have Max Layton on metals surging. And these metals are surging because it's the death of fiat. But not only that, the fourth industrial revolution rising. Because the fourth industrial revolution needs a lot of these minerals. But we see the central banks are going against their own fiat. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
So let me ask what you make of this report.
Yeah. So what's going on, Andrew, is you got to look at the background right now. Europe is panicking. The Harris camp is panicking. There's 2 weeks to the election, and they are throwing stuff at the wall. And what's happened in the last couple of weeks? What's happened is there's amazing momentum against the Harris team, right? So you have tell them not to go into Israel. They killed the bad guys in Israel. They looked really, really dumb telling them to stay out of Rafah when they got Sinwar, right? You got the Tabatatai who worked for Mali, who they brought in, clearly seems to be leaking stuff. Her father worked for the Iranian regime. Europe right now, of course, really angry at Musk. They had to fire Thierry Breton, the commissioner, who used to be a minister in the French government. People in the French government do not like Elon right now. Right? He just shamed them. Just 2 days ago, it came out they're trying to kill Twitter. So basically, they have all this momentum against them, and they're panicking and they're throwing stuff at the wall. And the last time we talked about Russia this close to an election, it was the intelligence community working on a fake document that Hillary created. They spent 3 years investigating him for BS. So it's like you have this context that you have to look at.
What do you think? I want to hear what you're saying. So go ahead.
Yep.
Are you finished?
No, I was going to say, but what do you think the validity of the report is? Meaning, do you believe that he is talking to Putin? And if he is, do you think that's appropriate?
So I have no idea if he's talking to Putin or not. I think the main thing, as far as I could tell, is they accused him of not giving something to Taiwan. You can look up very briefly, the Taiwanese government has not given permission for Starlink to operate in Taiwan. Elon works for the national security state. He lots of his companies do. He has, I have companies that do as well. You have to follow the rules when you work for the national security state. I find it highly unlikely he's breaking the very clear rules you're given when you do that. So I think it's probably a very silly attack.
And the rules are, if you are talking to a foreign government, particularly a hostile foreign leader, you have to report it, right? That's what Eamon was telling us earlier. We're trying to figure it out.
There's all sorts of rules that I'd be shocked if you broke them. But I mean, the accusation, as far as I could tell, is turn off Taiwan. Of course he wouldn't turn off Taiwan.
No. We saw it was a joint venture that the country requires. We kind of talked about that earlier. The country requires, and that's why he's not there.
My understanding is that you're not allowed to do diplomacy on behalf of the United States, and I'm confident he's not doing
I think
that.
part of the question is, so if you got a phone call, because you have security clearance too, for certain things, I imagine.
If
you happen to get a phone call from Putin, just on your phone when you leave the broadcast today, whether you have to report that call to the government or not.
If you talk about anything relevant to national security, you definitely would have to. You definitely would have to, just tell them what's going on with that. But again, I think this is really important. There's so much momentum on the Trump side in foreign policy the last couple of weeks. It's just almost comical how bad it's gone for them. So you're going to see them throw more stuff at the wall, and you have, I think deep state's kind of a silly term, but it's kind of a real term because you have bureaucrats who are basically do not want to obey him. These guys attacking Trump right now are people who try to go around him, and they're going after him. So they're going to try a lot of this stuff in the next 2 weeks.
Elon could knock this down pretty quickly by just saying, "Hey, I haven't broken any national security requirements or anything along those lines." We had Ackman on this week, and he said part of the reason that you are suspect of what happened with earlier issues with that last presidential debate was because they haven't come out and denied some of these things. It'd be pretty easy for him to just say this is not true.
I'm sure he will if he finds it necessary. At the same time, I think people are trying to create distractions to go and skin the
Let me ask you. I don't know if you saw Paul Tudor Jones earlier this week. He said he would stay away from all of this. Meaning, he said commodities great. You want the NASDAQ great, gold, Bitcoin, but the stuff we're talking about, not for him.
Well, look, I have a lot of sympathy for that because essentially what I think he's saying and the way that I'm looking at this as well is I think that bond yields, generally speaking, are just in a trendless range. They're just going to move sideways over a period of time. It's going to be dictated and governed by what Fed policy is, and the Fed is expected to cut rates. So this movement higher in yields is likely to be contained at some level. But in reality, if you're trading in the markets, if you're trying to have an allocation to bonds, you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to capture? And really all you're trying to capture right now is just the coupon. It's just the yield. You're not really going to get a directional push or what we call the duration component of returns to contribute, because I think that in reality, a lot of the movement is priced just based on Fed policy expectations.
Prices of gold, silver, and palladium all surging this week. Joining us right now to talk hard commodities is Max Layton. He's the head of commodities research at Citi. And Max, we looked at gold at a new high on Wednesday. You're bullish on gold, even with these gains we've seen in prices. Why is that?
Bullish on gold and silver over the next couple of months. Thanks for having me on the show. Quite frankly, gold and silver have gone up despite a number of things going against them. Variables that have been strongly correlated with gold and silver have gone against them over the last couple of months. We've had higher interest rates, stronger payrolls. Chinese demand through July and August collapsed in terms of the imports, and yet they've been marching higher. We think part of that is that China just returned to the market in September. So the premium indicators that you're getting on gold premiums going negative and falling in China, just, they don't reflect the underlying consumption. They're only 0.5% of the price. And going forward, the best bull markets for gold and silver, certainly over the last 20 years, have been when the DM is weak or weakening, the developed markets, US, Europe, and when China is easing and potentially going to strengthen. This is the best setup for gold and silver, certainly for a decade.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, if new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team save New York. From COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.